Good day, everyone. Our lesson for today is about conditional statement in C++. In this lesson, let's try to learn one of the most basic yet important concept in programming. Let's start with the if statement. This is essential because it helps us decide which code will be run depending on the condition. An if statement is used to execute a block of code if a condition is true. So here's the syntax of an if statement. So here it is. So we have a keyword which is if, and then meron tayong curly braces to start with this open brace to the closed brace. They call it the body of the if. And of course, inside the parenthesis is a condition, or we called it a boolean expression. So ibig sabihin, pwede tayong gumamit dito ng mga conditional statements. And our code is inside the body or the inside the curly braces. Okay? So, kailan nag-execute itong body? Then again, gaya na sabi ko kanina, if the condition is equal to true, it execute the body of the if. But if the condition is equal to false, it skips the body of the if. So let's look an example of if statement in our code. So meron ako dito na ready as an example of an if statement. Then again, ulitin ko lang ulit. In if statement, if the condition is equal to true, execute the body of if. But if the condition is equal to false, skip the body of the if. Okay, so here's an example of an if statement. I have here a variable named number, then the data type is int, then it accepts a value during runtime and save it to number, variable number. Then after that, ang ginagawa ng program nito is to identify if the number is positive. But technically, if we compare it in our syntax kanina, so we use the keyword if, and then after that, inside the parentheses, I use a conditional operator greater than. So I compare the value of number into 0. Like for example, number is greater than 0. If this is true, it will execute the body of if. But if the condition is equal to false, i-skip naman natin tong body ni if. So let's try to run this code to prove if our explanation is true. Yeah. So let's try to dissect this one. Oops. Minimize na tayo. Yan. Yan. Okay. So, like for example, I enter 11. 11 goes to variable num since we use it in a cin. Then after that, pagpunta naman natin sa if statement, ang mangyayari, the value of number, which is 11, 11 is greater than 0 is true. Then if that is true, it will execute the body of the if. So if I enter this one, ang gagawin niya is to execute the body of if, which is start from the open brace to the close brace. So that's why we display the number is positive. But if we try it again, bawa sana ginamit natin siya ulit, and we input, let's say negative 9. Negative 9 is greater than 0 is false. So since our condition is equal to false, ang gagawin niya naman is skip the body of the if. So that's why wala tayo na display. Because if you skip the body, wala nang susunod dito aside from the return 0. So that's the reason why wala tayong display after we accept a value, because our condition is equal to false. But what if we want the program to do something when the condition is false? If that is the problem, in if that is the problem in this regard, we can use if else statement. So let's try to edit our condition or the syntax, sorry. So instead of using the if we want to do something if the condition is equal to false, we can add we can use the if else statement. So gamit naman tayo ng if else statement. In if else statement, copy paste na natin to. Will execute. So this code will execute if the condition is equal to false. Okay, so same. So almost the same syntax. Ang nangdagdag lang is the keyword else and then of course the body of the else. So in this regards, if the condition of if is equal to true, it execute the block or the body of the if. But if the condition is equal to false, it execute the body of the else. Okay, nakukuha po. So now let's try to apply it in our code. So instead of displaying nothing if the condition is equal to false, let's try to use else to display something if the condition is equal to false. So then again, gagamitin natin is else, and then after that, gagawa tayo ng body of the else, and then let's put something inside the body of else. So like for example, the number is negative. So that's it. So let's try to run it again and check kung nagawa natin yung problem natin kanina. So like for example, in this one, so if you enter a positive number, so like for example 3, if I enter this one, 3 is greater than 0, so it will execute the body of if. But if I display a negative number, let's say negative 2, negative 2 is not greater than or equal to 0, so this is false. So ang mangyayari, it will execute the body of the else, which is the output is, or a string literal number is negative. So madi-display natin to, the number is negative. So that's the purpose of an else statement. Okay, so if the condition is equal to false, else will execute. But if we want to add multiple conditions, we can use an if else if statement. So kung titignan kasi to, if we are using only the if else statement, medyo limited yung magiging output natin or limited yung magiging function natin. Parang switch lang siya na magiging on and off. But if we want to include additional conditions, ang ginagamit naman nating keyword is the else if. If you notice, kung titignan kasi itong code natin, if you notice this code, 0 is not a negative or a positive, tama? Because 0 is a neutral number. So in that regards, pwede nating baguhin tong code natin or pwede nating baguhin tong statement na ginagamit natin. We need to add another condition to identify if the number is a negative, a positive, or a 0. Okay? So let's try to edit our syntax. Saan na syntax natin kanina? So this is our syntax. And then ngayon, kung gagamitin naman natin si else if, the keyword is else if, and then after that, after the else if is the parenthesis for the condition, and then of course the body of the condition. So ngayon, ang mangyayari dito, body of else if. So mangyayari dito, if you want to add more than one conditions, all you need to do is to use the keyword else if, and then of course maglalagay tayo dito ng condition. If you want to add more than one conditions after the if, ang ilalagay na lang natin is the keyword else if. So ibig sabihin, kung kailangan mo pa ulit na another condition, all you need to do is to use again the keyword else if. Ngayon, kung tatanungin nyo naman, pwede bang ilagay yung else? Yes, pwede pa rin ilagay yung else. So, ibig sabihin nun, pwede mong ilagay yung else after all the conditions. Halimbawa, sana kailangan mo lang pala ng 3 condition. But then again, you can add more than 1 conditions using the else if. Hindi lang 2, hindi lang 3. It depends upon the need of your program. So, now, since kung kailangan mo lang ng 3 conditions, rather, after the if, ulitin ko ulit, after the if, ang susunod is the else if. And then if you want additional condition, gagamit ka ulit ng another else if. And then, at the end, if all your condition is equal to false, you can add the else. So, what's the purpose of the else? If all the conditions equal to false, kung lahat ng mga conditions equal to false, it automatically execute the else. Okay? So, that's the purpose of else. Kung walang true condition sa mga nilagay natin or in-add natin ng mga conditions, automatically, it will execute the else. Okay, so let's try to perform it in our actual code. Okay, so here's our actual code. So let's try to edit this one. So many ways to solve the problem. If the problem is to display positive, if the number is positive, negative, and zero, pwede na tayong mag-start dito, which is greater than zero is a positive. And we all know, less than zero is a negative. So pwede na rin natin siyang gawin na condition. So instead of using the else, ang gagamitin na lang natin is the else if. Okay? So gagamitin natin is the else if. Tayo niyo tanggapin. Else if. Yan. So meron tayong else if dito. And then after the else if is the condition. So maglalagay tayo dito ng condition. So our next condition is number is less than 0. So all number less than 0 is a negative. So if this is true, ang gagawin niya is to execute the body of else if. Okay. Well, in the last part, which is to identify if the number is 0, pwede kasi tayong gumamit din naman dito ng tinatawag na else if. And then, pwede tayong maglagay ng condition. Kaso, tignan natin muna. So, if I use number is equal to 0, and then pwede nating ilagay dito na, copy ko na lang siguro to. Copy and then paste. Pag nilagay ko dito, the number is 0. Yan. Kung titignan, wala namang mali sa condition natin. But then again, if you check the condition, greater than 0 and less than 0, aside from greater than and less than 0, wala naman ng ibang number, tama? Aside from 0. So, instead of using else if, maybe, i-maximize natin yung paggamit ng else. Kasi aside from greater than 0 and below 0, ang natitira na lang na number is 0, tama? So, ibig sabihin nun, pwede na natin gamitin yung else. Again, what is the purpose of else? If all the conditions is equal to false, else will execute. Okay, so let's try this one. Try natin i-run to. Then, display. Okay, so punta tayo sa output natin, sa code natin, sorry. So, lakahan ko lang konti. So, like for example, if I enter negative 3, let's say, if I enter negative 3, ang mangyayari kasi, i-evaluate niya, start from the first condition. So, ang hahanapin niya is the true condition, and then, i-skip niya yung mga nasa baba. So, like for example, I type 1. 1 is greater than 0 is true. If this is true, it will execute the body of if, and terminate all the body inside the statement. So, ibig sabihin, hindi na siya pupunta sa second condition at hindi na siya pupunta sa else. So, ang gagawin na lang niya is to execute the body of if. But if we try it again, at naglagay naman tayo ng value, let's say, I enter, kanina yung negative 3. So, i-evaluate niya yung first condition, negative 3 is greater than 0 is false. So, ibig sabihin nun, i-skip niya to because the condition is equal to false. So, if this is false, hahanap siya ulit kung may condition. So, pupunta siya sa next condition, which is the else if. So, based on our else if, number is less than 0. If this is true, kasi negative 3 yung target natin yung input. So, ibig sabihin nun, ang madi-display natin dito is the number is negative. So, but, if we try to display or enter 0, ang mangyayari, the first condition is false, the second condition is false. So, automatically, ang i-display niya is the else. So, that's the logical flow of the if statement. Again, ulitin ko lang. If you want to add more than one condition after the if, the keyword is else if. And pag sinabing else, wala na po yung condition. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, if all the condition above the if statement or the conditional statement is false, ang mangyayari na is to execute the else. Ulitin ko ulit, wala pong condition ang else. So, let's try another example. Hanap tayo. Paste ko na lang dito. May kinapi ako eh. Okay, so this is an example of another example of if else statement. Okay, so kung titignan, this is about score of a student. Then naibigay ko na rin ata to example of your ternary operator sa klase natin. Well, balik tayo sa code. Meron tayo ditong variable which is score. We have a variable score. The data type is int, of course. So, nag-accept pa rin siya ng value going to score. So, nag-accept siya ng score. And then, if you notice the condition, meron tayong 1, 2, 3, and 4. So, the first condition is score is greater than 90. Kompletohin natin. And score is less than or equal to 100 para makuha natin yung tinuro ko noon about the logical operator to get the range of the value. So, 90 to 100. Dito naman, ilagay natin and score is less than or equal to 89 to make it B. Then dito, ilagay natin is in. Bakit hindi or? Pag or kasi, na-explain ko naman na siguro yan. So, pag or, at least one of the conditions is equal to true. So, we use and to satisfy the both condition. Okay? So, score is less than or equal to 79. And then dito naman, score is less than or equal to 69. May error ako din. 79. Yeah. Okay. So, if you notice, mas kompleto na yung code natin. Pero may lacking pa rin tayo kasi we use else at the last part. Siguro ito na yung kukompletohin natin later on. Okay? So, let's run it again. And then, let's try to dissect the code. Yan. So, if I add a value, like for example, alimbawa sana yung score ko is 78. Let's say 78. So, i-evaluate natin ulit dito. 78 is greater than or equal to 90 is false. And 78 is less than or equal to 100 is true. In our truth table, false plus true is equal to false. So, ibig sabihin nun, i-skip niya itong if and then maghahanap siya ng next condition. So, ang next condition naman is this. Ito yung next condition natin. So, ano mangyayari? 78 is greater than or equal to 80 is false. And 78 is less than or equal to 89 is true. So, almost the same scenario. False plus true in AND operator is false. So, pupunta ulit siya sa next condition dito sa next condition natin. And then, ang mangyayari, i-evaluate ulit niya. 78 is greater than or equal to 70 is true, and 78 is less than or equal to 79 is true. So, since merong dalawang true or all the conditions equal to true, since we use AND, so ang i-display niya dito is your grade is C. So, pag in-enter natin to, ang madi-display sa your grade is C. The rest, hindi na niya babasahin kasi nakahanap na siya ng true condition. Okay? So, pag nahanap na niya yung true conditions, automatically, hindi na niya babasahin yung nasa baba. Like, for example, itong isang condition pa and then the else. Okay? So, if I try to run it again, halimbawa sana walang na-satisfy sa condition kasi based on the condition, meron tayo yung 90 to 100, 80 to 89, 70 to 79, 60 to 69. So, if I enter yung grade natin, let's say, 58, sana hindi naman umabot yung grade nyo ng 58. So, yan. If this is 58, the first condition is false, so i-skip niya to. Second condition is false, i-skip din niya to. And then, third condition is false, i-skip niya to. The last condition is false, i-skip niya to. Gaya na sinasabi ko kanina, if all the condition is equal to false, ang i-execute na lang niya is the body of if. So, ibig sabihin, the body of else. So, ang i-display niya dito is your grade is false. Okay? So, that is the if statement. Okay? Hope you understand our discussion or kung meron further questions or inputs, pwede kayong pumunta sa GC natin para at least dun yun na lang i-release kung may mga tanong tayo. Okay? So, for your for your attendance today, guys, ang gagawin nyo lang is to send the second example natin kay president na lang siguro, president of our class. until 3 p.m. So, ibig sabihin, check lang attendance yung kaya makapag-send ng second example natin kay class president until 3 p.m. Then, kukunin ko next week yung attendance natin kay class president. Okay? Then, for your assignment, may ready yung assignment nyo dito. So, this is your assignment. Then, to be passed next week, of course. So, paki-check na lang po yung assignment natin. So, that is our assignment today. So, ang gagawin nyo lang is to fulfill this program and then based on this instruction and then ipapass nyo sa akin sa klase natin next week. So, thank you guys for listening. Again, kung may question kayo, please visit our GC. Thank you.